There's some brand new video into us here at Newsmax out of Ukraine of the evacuation of troops from that Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol. Ukraine ordering the soldiers defending the last pocket of Mariupol to stop fighting, giving up control of that port city to Russia. For the very latest, let's get you to the ground. Joining us live from Kyiv with the very latest is our correspondent, Sarah Williamson. Sarah, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Bianca. 264 soldiers have finally been evacuated from Azovstal steelworks after an agreement had been made between Ukraine and Russia, and are currently on Russian-occupied territory in the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. Now, Ukrainian forces have announced that they have completed their combat mission and will exchange these soldiers with Russian prisoners of war. Now, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the commanders of units stationed at the Azovstal steel plant have been ordered to save the lives of their personnel. Now, 53 seriously injured people were evacuated from Azovstal to a medical facility in Novoazovsk, which is in an occupied territory there, and another 211 people were taken to Olenivka, which is also occupied territory, or both through humanitarian corridors. Now, Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Anna Myla says that the exchange procedure will only see evacuees eventually being brought home. President Zelensky also put out a statement saying on social media saying that Ukraine needs Ukrainian heroes alive. He also thanked the Ukrainian military and the negotiators, plus the International Committee of the Red Cross and the United Nations. So it is still really a stressful situation because the procedure isn't over yet. Not until these soldiers, these Ukrainian soldiers, can be back on Ukrainian soil.
Sarah Williamson live in Kyiv with the latest on the battle there in Ukraine. Appreciate that, Sarah.
All right, joining us for more information on this, retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Blaine Holt, who's got one of the best backgrounds in the business with that helmet back there. You know I love to see that. General Holt, great to see you.
Go Dogs, John.
Go Dogs. All right, well, the Senate voted yesterday to advance a bill that would provide $40 billion in aid to Ukraine, but Americans continue to say they're suffering from gas prices and baby formula shortages and skyrocketing inflation. Is it fair to compare these things? Because, you know, look, Ukraine is fighting back hard. Russia has apparently gained control of Mariupol, but other than that, they're on the defensive now. And it seems like any delay in this aid could thwart that progress.
Well, you know, I think it's always appropriate for Americans to take an interest not only in the expenditures of their country, but to ask very detailed questions about line item by line item about what the cost should be. This amount of money is an enormous amount of money, and they haven't even finished spending the first $13.8 billion that they put into this. So when we take a look at Americans struggling here, those are very real problems. Looking at our southern border issues, looking at the formula, looking at inflation and gas, it's reasonable. And I support what Senator Rand Paul is doing. He's not holding it up. He's just saying, let's have some accountability and some watchdogging here. At the same time, on the military side, Ukraine is doing very well. I don't see that this money will impede or advance their progress because of what's already in the flow right now. Things are going well on the battlefield.
Right. And, you know, I think there's even been talk, you know, Ukraine can win this. And sort of a multi-layered question here for you, General Holt. Obviously, there's still chat, there's still word that Putin could use nukes, right? We're still hearing, you know, media reports of that. But also there's dissent within Russia, people saying they're not for this. They're even coming out even though there's likely punishment for it. And then you have Putin may be sick. So when we see all these storylines, what does that mean for the war and the next strategy here? Could it really go nuclear when there's all these other factors involved?
It absolutely can. We have to be very careful to listen and watch what's happening in Russia now. They're at a very vulnerable place. Putin is sick. That's probably pretty obvious. We don't know what it is. But his inner circle is shrinking. His control of the media is starting to fragment and break up. And when we see things like that measured with the performance on the battlefield, he's shown that he has very little restraint in weapons of mass destruction or crimes against the Geneva Convention.
Can he just light off a rocket by himself? I mean, you mentioned the Russian media. There was a very important exchange yesterday, I believe, on Russian television that was critical of the war, something you don't see very often. And my other question is, why hasn't Vladimir Putin used nuclear weapons as of yet?
Well, this is, it's going to be complete speculation. So has he tried to use them, but he doesn't have a command and control structure to do so? I think it was a very interesting shift. We expected, major, very, very dangerous announcements at the Victory Parade Day, and we got none of that. We didn't get a mobilization of the country. We didn't get a declaration of war, and yet he said all these things were coming. And so one would have to wonder, how much control does he have, especially when you look at suspension and possible arrest of Valery Gerasimov, the equivalent of what would be our General Milley.
It's an interesting time there, of course, for Vladimir Putin, and we don't know because there's not this free flow of information. But the Mirror is also reporting that captured Russian soldiers have said their commanders are telling them that they should wound their own troops, shoot their own troops in Russia. Does this sound like something the Russian military would actually do? I
think that we have every reason to believe that that's an accurate report, and here's why. One of the battalions that was coming across towards Kherson, there's very credible reporting out of there from both sides that a Chechen group behind them were simply running behind that battalion to shoot anybody who might flee the battlefield. So they are absolutely being barbaric. And, this is one of the greatest military blunders you could possibly have. If you don't have a cohesive fighting unit, and if this is how you treat your forces, you're not going to win on the battlefield. You're going to get decimated.
Oh, and it's coming from prisoners of war who are saying they saw it firsthand, young Russian soldiers saying these reports. Very disturbing. As always, General Blaine Holt, great to have you with us. We appreciate your insight. Always fantastic.
Thank you for having me.